Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a basic platforming game, and if you don't know what that is, it's one where if I walk around with the arrows, Scratch walks like this, and if I press the spacebar, he jumps realistically. Now that is running a little bit slower than it would because I'm recording, but you can imagine what it would be like. So how do we create this kind of game? Well, this video will just show you how to get the basic walking from left to right looking realistic like this. And how we're going to do it is if I get out of this and click on create, for a start I'm just going to get a simple background. So I click on the stage down here and backdrops. This bucket tool fills in the whole area. So if I go blue, now I've got blue and white. I quite like this gradient kind of effect there. So I'm going to click on that, and that looks beautiful. Now on top of that, I am going to put a sort of brown rectangle, and this I'm going to use this rectangle tool here. I don't want a hollow one, I want a solid one. I'll click on that button there. And I'm going to create my brown, beautiful brown ground there, and that later on in later videos, the fact that that's all the same color will be very important. Now Scratch looks way too big right now. There is this fantastic button here called shrink. So sorry Scratch, you're going to shrink a little bit, and I'll put you back on the ground there. Great, so we're all set up. The only problem is Scratch can't walk. And one more problem is it's called Sprite 1. I'm going to call him Scratch. If I click on the I button there, I can call him Scratch. Beautiful, and we'll click back. Okay, Scratch. Let's make Scratch walk. Well, you should have known from the basic movement video that if we get a when green flagged clicked block, we can also get a forever block. And this block can check forever whether the right arrow or the left arrow is pressed. So let's get an if inside there. If in the sensing area here, if the key is pressed, the right arrow key, what do we want him to do? Well, left and right is the x coordinate and up and down is y, so we want to change x. In the motion here, let's change x by 5 pixels. Now if you had 10 or 20 he would move ridiculously fast, but that's up to you if you want that to happen. Let's see if that works. Okay, great. When I press left, nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? Well, because I don't have any code telling the computer what to do if I click left. So let's duplicate this. If the left arrow is clicked, I want to change x the opposite direction. What's the opposite to 5? -5. Let's try that. Okay, well, he goes back and forth, but he doesn't point in the direction that I want him to. So I need to go back to motion and get this point in direction. Now 90 says right, so we'll keep that one. And then I want to point in direction if the left arrow key is pressed. Left, which is -90. Let's see if that works. Okay, we definitely don't want him on his head, and that's a really common problem. And if you click on this little eye here, you'll see it's because he's set to rotate around upside down, and we would much rather have him do the left and right rotation there. Great, fantastic. Now the final thing I'm going to do to make him really realistic is get him moving. Now if I click on get his feet moving, if I click on the costumes over here, if I do that, He looks like he's walking. But I'm not going to sit there clicking this all game, am I? That would be quite silly. So I need in the actual script, I need every time the right arrow key is pressed, then we're actually going to go to the next, oops, I'm in the sound, looks. We're going to go to the next costume. And the same way, if he's going the left arrow, I'm going to click next costume. Let's try that. Oh my goodness, that is way too fast. Unless you want him in turbo mode. Okay. There is a bit of a trick how we can slow this down. Even though we switch the costume like 30 times a second, we can make it look like we're not by making a couple of copies in the costume. So if I right click here and click duplicate and put it up here, then I have two of these in a row. So even though it switches, the first time it switches, it won't actually switch. So if I duplicate this one as well, that will actually make it look like he's walking a lot slower. And I can slow it down even more by making another duplicate. You'll have to move it back up to these ones. You see how these are all the same? So when it's flipping through the costumes, it actually is flipping through the costumes, but it doesn't look like it's changing until it gets to this one. So we have 3 of each. Let's see how that's working now. Oh, that's looking much better. And I'm going to call it something like basic platform game. And let's have a look at that full screen, this little full screen button over here. How's that running? Oh, that's looking fantastic. Unfortunately, all we can do is go left and right at this point, so look for the next video on how we can add features to this. But this is a really important thing in programming. You get one thing working really, really well, in this case moving left and right, and then you add other things in on top of that on the code. So I'll see you in the next video.